Hello. This is lesson 1. So you're writing this at the top of your paper. Lesson 1, decimals and fractions. And then underneath that, here's your essential question. This needs to be on your paper. How do I write decimals in fractions and fractions, decimals as fractions and fractions as decimals? You can pause the video at any time to write that down. Pause it, get that down, and then come back to me. Going forward, the first thing we're going to do is let's talk about going from decimals to fractions. What we're going to look at is we want to match the last number, write this down, match the last number to the place value. And what we're looking to do then is we're going to take it and we're make a denominator that's either a 10, 100, or 1,000. We can do more than that, but we're going to focus on those three. Ms. Benoit, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So let me do this real quick. Let me erase this so we don't have any confusion. Yoink, yoink, yoink. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay. I need you to get this on your paper now. Okay, so just a simple kind of grid here. I've got place values of 1,000, 1,000, hundreds, 100, tens, 10, ones, there's a 1. And then that decimal point matters. Make sure the decimal point is there. Then tenths, hundredths, thousands, this is 0.1, 0.01, and 0.001 to equal 1,000. What we're doing to go from decimals to fractions is we're just going to look at the last number in our place value. In this one, it's this 6. And that means when we look at this, 6 is in the tenths column because we're 1 away from the decimal. So we would write this as 6 with a denominator of 10. 6 tenths. Now we've converted it to a fraction, but the fraction needs to be simplified. We're always, no matter what, going to simplify fractions, so get used to it. Get over yourselves, people. We can divide them both by 2, not by 3. So divide by 2 and divide by 2, and we get 3/5. So that is that decimal written as a fraction, 3/5. Let's do one more. I've got 0.45. I'm going 2 places this time. So I'm going to check it here. Here's 1 place, 2 place. Hundredths, 0.01. That matches here, 0.45. So then I'm going to write that as 45 with the denominator 100, 45 hundredths. Then I'm going to simplify it. And for me, I'm not going to look for the greatest common factor. I just want to divide them both by 5. What helps me to know is that I've got a 1's digit of 5, a 1's digit of 0. If I divide them both by 5, 45 divided by 5 is 9. And 100 divided by 5, well, 10 divided by 5 is 2. So 100 divided by 5 should be 20. Now, those don't have a common factor, so that means that the fractional equivalent of 0.45 or 45 hundredths is 9/20. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to go from fractions then to decimals. So in fractions, can you see it? From fractions to decimals, there's 2 ways to do this, right? And the easiest way is to do the inverse of what we just did. So we had a number that was a decimal, like 0.7, and we could say it as 7 tenths. So that means we could write it as 7 tenths. That's easy. So what we want to do in method 1 is we just want to see if we can get the denominator to be 10, 100, or 1,000. As soon as we do that, then we can write it back into that grid that we had in the first slide. So we're going to write an equivalent fraction, and that's just trying to get the denominator to one of these 3 things. So the first one we're going to do is actually the one on the right, 3/5. Now, is there some way that we can get that 5 to become a 10 or a 100 or a 1,000? 5's pretty easy to work with. We can get it to a 10 pretty easily. So if we write it as an equivalent fraction, what times 5 is going to give us 10 over here? Times 2. And if we multiply the denominator by 2, we're going to multiply the numerator by 2. 2. And that gives me 6. 6 tenths. Now we have one more step. 6 tenths, when we write that, is 0.6. 6/10. So 3/5 as a decimal is 0.6. Now let's go over to this one. Now I've got a 4. Now, is a 4 going to get me to a 10? Not well. It's just like a 2.5, but we're not going to use a 2.5. Does it get me to 100? This is where that money math matters. So 4 times what could get us to 100? 25. There's 4 quarters in a dollar. So if this is going to be 100, I'm going to multiply this by 25, multiply this by 25. 4 times 25 is 100. 3 times 25 is 75, which means I've got 75 hundredths. So let me erase this. And that means I can write that as the decimal 0.75 or 0.775 hundredths or 75 hundredths. Can you see that, Ms. Benoit?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, last thing is method 2. And in method 2 is just the straight up math version. So method 2 will always work. Method 1, you got to have something that can get you to that spot that you like, a 10 or 100 or 1,000. But method 2 is just divide. And we use one of our simple ones that we always seem to use, 7/8. We can turn 7/8 into a decimal by division. Now, if you remember, we talked about this, NIDO, numerator. Oh, I'm just making up the spelling now, I'm not sure. Numerator, just, you can work it out. Inside, I wrote the I. Denominator, outside. So that means I've got, here's my division bracket. Is that where my 8 goes? Denominator outside? No. Silly. Brother. We'll put the 7 on the inside and the 8 on the outside. And then we're just going to do the math. Put your decimal in. Put your decimal in your quotient. Remember quotient? We just talked about this yesterday. Quotient. There are 0 8s in 7. There are 8 8s in 70, leaving us 6. Bring down the 0. 7, the world's worst math problem. 8 times 7 is 56. 4, we're not done. We're not doing remainders. We're getting an exact value. So I got to annex a 0. Annex. Here's the annex alert. I don't know how many x's are at the end of that, so I put 3. Annex a 0. That's this one right here. Yay. Bring that down. Here's my 0. I know this one. How many 40s are in 8? No, how many 8s are in 40? There are 5. I'm going to write that small to make sure it fits. And there we go. So the decimal equivalent of this 7/8 is 0.875. That's always available. You can always do that math, the division. Otherwise, get that denominator to a 10. Notice that we divided specifically with this one because we can't get that 8 to a 10 very well through multiplication. We can't get it to a 100. We can't get it to 1,000 very well. So, all right, let's do some practice. Good luck.